IT Mastermind Talks is sponsored by IMA, ITVA, and LoadingGrowth. Our podcast features tips and tricks to help scale your IT services business. Gain insights and advice for every stage of your business journey, from initial growth strategies to successful exits. Join us, be part of our growing community, and engage in the conversation. Hosted by Ian Markram of LoadingGrowth.
Good day. This session today is really about setting up a vision for your business. And as I mentioned in the previous video around creating a strategy, one of the most important steps right up front is creating a vision. And I'm going to go through a few of the reasons why it's important to have a vision articulated. We normally do that vision in the focus day. And when we talk to our clients, it's really, really important to make sure that we get that really captured before you move into your business planning stage. I often get, asked, why is it important to have a vision? And one of the things I always say is, to make sure that you actually know what success looks like, you've got to actually articulate that. When you articulate that, it's heavily important because when you write it down, you actually start to believe it. And that's really, really important. So it's sort of like, when you verbalize something, you might think something through in your mind, but when you talk to someone and through that communication, you actually start to believe it. The moment you start to articulate it on a document, you start to really solidify that vision. And that is also another form of actually communication, obviously, and that locks that in your mind. So the vision really is done by the leadership team or the business owners, the founders, whatever it is, and that runs the company, making sure that vision is really aligned and making sure that people understand that it's that important and that we actually go back to that vision whenever there's a breakdown in communication or breakdown in not achieving those numbers. Where's the anchor coming from? And the anchor is coming back back to the vision of what we want from this organization. Now, the vision could be slightly different from a business owner to a leadership team. So just got to make sure that you understand that they both tie in together, but they could be slightly different. The business owner might not let the leadership team know that they want to put the business up for sale in 3 to 5 years, and this is how they want that to happen, or they might want to go to 2 days or 3 days a week, but they might not want to let the leadership team know at the time, the point in time. But that over a period of time, that vision will, change and start to have those elements in there to make sure that the business strategy is able to be executed as what the business owner wants. Hell of important. Just making sure, the vision is about having sustainable growth to make sure that you get those exceptional outcomes that you want in your business. No one wants to work in a business if it's not progressing forward and not moving in a way that aligns with their personal values. So you've got to make sure, in a consultancy environment, that we're winning new projects, we're doing new exciting things, and we're innovating and we're bringing people along a journey. And that's really important to have those components, I believe, to be part of your vision. And as I always say, if you don't have a plan, the chances of actually succeeding, is very low. Okay. So like any plan, the vision, as I mentioned, is really important. When I had my own IT services firm, it was a business intelligence company. Back in 2012, I sold it to a big global multinational called Entity Data, big consultancy firm, and obviously does everything else. It's a top 30 global company. We had a vision to be famous for business intelligence. We had a vision to be famous to solve analytical challenges that companies were having at the time. Reporting, consuming data, making sure they can understand the data timely. And that was really important. We wanted to become famous for having the best team to deliver the most challenging, problems that clients had. As I'm a big believer of, the bigger the problem you solve, the more money you get paid. And that's really what drove us around the vision of making sure we were the number one brand in Asia Pacific around analytics. Okay. And that's why at the end of the day, when we put our business up for sale, we had 14 companies that were actually beating down the door to buy us. We were famous for something. So that was really core to our vision. And we never lost that through that process. all the companies I've been part of, and there's been 4 other exits that I've been part of that I've coached businesses through, each one of them had a real core vision. And those core visions were, around what were they famous for in that slice of that market. And that was part of the vision. Okay, making sure that really works. So, make sure you know what you're famous for and make sure that's part of the vision as well. The next thing is around being realistic with your vision. Okay. And really making sure that when people read that vision, they really can understand how the business that you're working in actually will achieve that vision over the next 2-3 years. You might have a vision or a BHAG as a founder that's really quite scary. Sometimes I would say, leave that separate and not to just dumb it down. I hate that, but make sure it's realistic to people that you're hiring and making sure the people that are on the journey understand that is achievable. Hell of important to do that. I've got a concept. It's called the 10X or the 2X. A lot of people have been writing about this for the last 10 to 15 years. It might be the BHAG or, from Vern Harnish, or 10X is easier than 2X by Dan Sullivan is another great book that touches on this. But for me, it's really important to understand the 10X versus the 2X, because this is part of the core fundamentals of a vision. When I talk to companies and we talk about vision and where they're going as a business, the first thing they say is, we want to, grow 20 to 30%. And I think that's where I would say is a sustainable way. Sometimes people say to me, hey, they want to double the business. And that is possible if the business is fairly small. But if you get to 30 staff, 40 staff, you can't double your business that quickly. So then you should be going into 20 to 30% growth. Okay, that's the way I look at things. Unless you're scalable and everything else. I've mentioned this in previous videos as well. Really around the 10X is, the 10X mindset is, or the BHAG mindset, same concept, is making sure that you set a bar, set something up there that's big enough to stop you to think every now and then when you look at your strategy, because vision is part of your strategy, to say, hey, hang on. We want to make sure that we actually fundamentally solving these 4 or 5 major rocks to grow the business over the next 3 to 5 years, to really fundamentally challenge us in the organization that we lead to grow. That's what the 10X does. The 10X should stop you from doing the mundane things. If you don't do the mundane things, what tends to happen, and we see this with over 130 clients we've coached over the last 8 years, is if you're doing the 2X type of mindset, is you, instead of working 60 hours, you're working 65. You're putting more pressure on yourself just to tweak out that little bit more efficiency and that little bit more of gain. And you're tweaking that dial and you're only going to get 2X. Tend to happen, guess what? You end up burnout. You end up falling over and you end up not being very happy within your own business. So make sure you put those big rocks in your vision as well, to make sure that you actually stop yourself every now and then and say, this is the North Star. This is where we are aiming to go as a business. This is our vision. When you have a fairly effective vision, okay, you can obviously have that on your website, have it as part of your interview process. If someone wants to come on board or an interview process, send them the vision beforehand. All right, send them the core values so they actually can understand where you're going as an organization. If it's not on the website, send it out to them in an email before the meeting so they can really understand, make sure that they talk to you about the vision in your interview process. It's that important. They've got to buy into it. I used to have a part of the vision on my actual board in my boardroom. I would get people to come in for face-to-face for the third last interview and make sure that they understood the vision and play it back and how it resonates with them or it doesn't resonate with them, and see if that needs to be adapted or if you could, if that person is a culture fit as well. So just make sure that, it's an impactful tool to make sure that you have component of that in the mechanism to hire new staff. Okay, really important to make sure the vision's there. The next thing is, when I talk to clients that are pitching at their clients, I always say to them, make sure at some point early on in the engagement, you might have a small engagement to start off with to build trust with the client, and it's easy to wedge yourself into that door. Okay, and that's a real tactic. There's multiple ways we teach and how to get a new client and then how to actually onboard yourself with a new client and how to get that engagement crisp and be successful. Okay. But once you're kicking off that engagement, this is the time to sit back and say, hey, we're going to actually talk to them about our vision of a business. Now take the core components of that vision and overlay it with their vision of what they're trying to do. You'll see there'll be 2 or 3 things in your vision that works and overlays their vision of their problems you're trying to solve. Okay, and this is why it's great to be famous for something or a niche, because that really resonates with the customers when they go through. And people want to know where you're going as a business. People want to know that you have a sustainable business. They don't want to partner with a consultancy firm that might be closed in a year, 2 years' time. They want to be partnering with a consultancy firm that basically has innovation, that is growing their staff, that is training their staff and upskilling. They want a long-term relationship with you. Okay, so got to make sure that vision comes through early on in your engagements and your life cycles with them. Really important. Another thing about the vision as well is, it's something that's got to be a differentiator between you, your competitors, as well as the biggest system integrators, if that's who you're competing with. And you've got to make sure that, when we actually talk to our customers, or our clients' customers, I should say, that they know that, they're always the underdog. They're always fighting the big fight against the big system integrators and the big 5. You've got to make sure that that vision shines through to your clients. Okay, it's really important to make sure that everyone is on the same page around that vision. Around the North Star, I mentioned that earlier on. I want to circle back to that. Hell of important to make sure that the North Star is guiding principles in your business, the guiding principle in your business. So it helps you define your strategy and helps you make decisions, and it actually helps you with your process of running your organization a lot better. If you have a North Star and you have some debate or conflict internally at leadership or in a company, it's easy to look back and say, hey, what's our purpose? What's our vision? Where are we going? And does that fit into it? The biggest challenge I see with my clients is they don't keep that vision in a software or a strategy. They don't review it over and over again. And every quarter I speak to them, they go, oh, we're doing this now. Well, that wasn't in your strategy for the year, let alone a quarter ago. And now you're doing it. And they go off the shiny object syndrome, which we've always been talking about in our industry for such a long time. And we're not focused on actually driving the value back to the shareholders, back to the owners of the business, back to the people who put risk and put their houses on the line to make sure they grow that. So we've got to make sure that we keep that aligned at all time. Okay, make sure that we have that North Star to actually keep us guiding, and we can, bring that vision, that North Star out as quick as possible and use it to help us through a dilemma or through a point in time that we need to progress. I think it's probably enough on the vision. Hell of important to get it right. It is the foundation, the vision are the foundation before you start your actual business planning phase around, the numbers for year 1, 2, and 3, and what you're going to do around your service lines and how you're going to execute and how you're going to hire and how you're going to go to market and all those other exciting things. So please make sure you get that vision sorted out. And it's always moving, it's always changing, yes, but you've got to put an anchor in the ground and you've got to start the process. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks for joining us on IT Mastermind Talks. Don't miss out on our next episode. Hit the follow button and stay updated. Want to be our next podcast guest? Contact us and share your expertise with our audience. Visit www.itmastermindtalks.com for more information.